Okay, guys. Look, day 2 of minicamp. I thought we got a lot of good work done today. Again, it's another good practice and a tough environment. So I think we're doing some good things, and we got one more practice tomorrow. So
always got to preface by saying this early, and especially for linemen who can't be as physical as you want, but Nick Saldivari is getting an opportunity here. How are you seeing him handle it?
Yeah, look, I think he's doing some good things. And yet, I think, like we talked about yesterday, I don't think you can get too high or too low, or read too much into what we're seeing, out here. We'll get a really good evaluation of where everybody is once we really put the pads on and we start, playing real football. And so, but all that being said, in terms of execution, in terms of knowing what to do, in terms of getting to the right spots, I think he's done a pretty good job.
He seems to have the athleticism that John wants from those linemen.
Yeah, no, definitely does. He fits the profile, and I like his mindset and I like his demeanor, and so I'm excited about seeing him once we get to training camp.
Yeah, is there real competition for the kicker job?
Well, I think there's real competition for a majority of the jobs on our team. I think when you really look at it, I like both of the players. I think Smith has probably got maybe a little bit stronger leg than Groupie, and yet the consistency hasn't been quite the same. And look, my hope is that I'm going to see a nice jump between last year to this year from Blake Groupie, because I think he's extremely talented. So I think we just got to let this thing play out. There's a long way before we get to the beginning of the season, and we won't make any judgments right now, but we'll let it play out.
Do you know his range?
It's long. I don't know exactly what it is. I mean, when we talk about range, how far can he kick it? I bet he could kick 70 yards. Now, does he have the accuracy to be able to do that? We'll find that out.
Dennis, what was your initial reaction, to bring him aboard here, sign him with the offseason? Charlie Smith.
You talking about Charlie?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. We knew that there was a raw, talented player there, and we knew that he had an extremely strong leg, and so we felt like that would be a good person to bring in that could provide some competition, and maybe this is a guy that we might be able to develop. So we'll just have to see how it goes.
We talked to you yesterday about Lattimore and Kamara and Ramczyk. I kind of wanted to get your bigger picture thoughts on that draft class. I mean, that's been the kind of the core of this team for a number of years. I mean, what has that meant to what y'all have done here?
Yeah, well, I think all three of those players have been a major part of that. They've all three had a huge impact in our ability to have success here for an extended period of time. And look, I think that's what this league's really about. This league's about draft and develop, draft and develop, draft and develop. And we've had some good draft classes here. 06 was one of our better draft classes. 2017 was one of our better draft classes. So we've had some classes that have been foundational pieces to our success. And so, look, I think all of our hopes is that this past draft is another foundational piece as we move forward, into really what I'm saying is year 3 of this regime.
Dennis, what did you attribute? I know it's much more than just sacks, quarterback hurries, quarterback hits, however you describe it. But what do you attribute that the big slide last year, only having 32 sacks versus in previous seasons you had high 40s, low 50s, then you're amongst the best? Well, why that big drop off? Is it because of injuries or what?
Well, look, everything plays a part in it, but I think probably the biggest thing is we didn't finish at the quarterback as well last year as maybe we've done in the past, and I think that's an area that we have to improve on. I think getting a little more speed, a little more athleticism. That's one of the reasons why we brought Chase Young on board. If we can keep Peyton Turner healthy, if Isaiah Foskey can come on like I think he's got a shot to, it gives you probably more options to go and rush the passer. And so part of that is being able to be in waves, keeping guys fresh. And part of it is, hey, let's get out to a 2-score lead where we're able to just rush the passer. And so I think there's a lot of factors that go, involved in that, and being able to, get the quarterback on the ground.
When you have a relative down year, and Bobby just asked about, how does that reflect on the job that the defensive backs did last season and being like a top 10 against the pass and their coverage in general? And how does that set the expectation level for
Well,
them?
yeah, I mean, look, I think there's some things that we did really well. I thought, some of our pass defense I thought was, one of the better things that we did. I think we've consistently been a solid third down team, solid red zone team. So some of our situational stuff has been good, although it can still improve. I think it's obviously one of our strengths, and certainly pass rush and pass coverage have to be able to work together. So there's probably a little bit more rush and pressure maybe that we've gotten credit for, but I think that's certainly still an area that we need to improve.
Dennis, when you look at like last year, your top 10 scoring offense, top 10 scoring defense, if you're able to do that again, isn't that usually like definitely a winning formula? You're holding your opponent down and you score?
Yeah, I mean, you would hope that would be the case. I think, each game's different. One of the things that we had last year is we got to do a better job of scoring early in games. And I think that's an area that we can improve on, and be better in the first half of games. And I think that helps us. So, when you're down by, 2 or 3 scores, and all of a sudden, you're playing a little bit of catch up, you're scoring some points, but yet I don't know that they're the same meaning as, if you're starting off the game and you're getting up 14-0, it changes the whole dynamics of the game.
And so how would you describe your staff's approach to the new kickoff rules, and with it being so new, is there like kind of an avenue for you guys to be creative there?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I think here's the reality. There's nobody that knows what this kickoff is going to look like. That's the reality. It's never been done before. There's some examples of similar setups, but it's never been done before. And so I think the teams that are able to adapt and adjust the best are the teams that are going to have the most success. And so I think that's what we have to be. I think we have to have a plan in place of how we want to attack this, and then we have to be able to study and look at how things are going throughout the preseason, and make adjustments that we need to make.
Do you have playmakers, or is that just something they come here with, or is that something you think you can develop?
I think it's both. I think certainly there's a natural ability that comes along with being a playmaker, but I also feel like there's things that you can do to develop that. I think from a fundamental standpoint, let's just take a receiver for instance, right? There's certain things that we can do to develop their route running ability. There's certain things that we can do to develop their ability to run the ball after catch, and so I think there's certainly things that you can develop, but it starts with what Mama and Daddy gave them in terms of their God-given ability.
But
Dennis,
as far as
what?
as far as you think maybe like what Bobby was talking about in some of those games, if you had a player or two like that either on offense or defense, that would have made a huge difference last year?
Well, look, I really don't want to live in hypotheticals, but you asked the question, so yeah. I mean, look, I think you can go back in any game, and generally you can, all the plays matter, right? But you can generally point to a handful of plays that really were significant impact plays. So, yeah, I think that's something that we need to be better at. That's something that we need to improve, making those, game impacting type plays.
Is there anything that stood out to you about either your veteran receivers that you brought in, Cedric Wilson or Equanimeous St. Brown, even beyond what we can chart on the field, intangibles that they might fill a role?
Well, I think. Look, here's the biggest thing. The biggest thing is that you got 2 veteran players that have come in and put their head down and gone to work, and have bought into the way that we're trying to coach the position, what we're trying to install from a scheme standpoint. I think sometimes one of the challenges you have when you bring in veteran players is they've established themselves and established a way of doing things, and for a lot of these guys, they've been able to have some success doing that. And so the challenge kind of becomes getting guys to buy into what you're doing and how you want to do it. And look, sometimes that process takes longer than others. But I'd say, for the most part, every one of the veterans that we've brought in have come in and bought into what we're doing, offensively and defensively.
Is either guy blocker, contested catch receiver, anything in that sort of?
I think both of them have that ability. Both of them have some size. Both of them have some physicality. And I think both of them have shown a willingness to want to, be able to put their nose in there and get some of the dirty work done.
How about A.J. Perry? What are you seeing from what you guys wanted to see from his growth?
Yeah, look, he's still got a long way to go. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing a guy that's got talent, has shown signs of being a playmaker, and has shown signs of inconsistency. And so I think that's the challenge with all young players is how do you get them to that's what really the development really is. The development is the consistency with which you have to, perform on a day in and day out basis. And I think that's, that's the challenge that we're faced with not only AT but a lot of these young guys.
Yeah, we saw Spencer with the twos today. Is that going to be a situation where they kind of switch back and forth?
Yeah, look, I think that thing's going to battle out all throughout training camp, and so and I don't think that position is unique in that I think there's going to be several positions where you'll see a few different lineup changes along the way, and it's just part of the competitive nature of this game that we play and the evaluation process.
Are you seeing Derek getting more comfortable with the system?
Yeah. I think every day he's getting more and more comfortable, which is good to see. I think, and again, it's going to be a process. We're not nearly the completed work of art. We got a long way to go, but yeah, I think every day that he gets out here, he feels more and more comfortable, not only with the scheme, but with the players that are around him.
You said something yesterday about running the same kind of run plays, but you're teaching it differently. You're coaching concepts differently. Can you expand on that a little bit? What do you mean by that?
Well, look, each here's the deal. In our league, all right, on offense, if you're going to run the football, okay, you have man schemes, you have gap schemes, and you have zone schemes. All right, that there's not really anything else you can do, And so, okay, how are we teaching our wide zone as compared to how some other guys are teaching it? What are our targets? What are our landmarks that we're trying to hit? There's a lot of different things that go along with that. And rather than getting into all the specific details, I think that's I think it's one of the things that makes this offense unique and this offense different. So,
but along those lines, how much do you think improvement lies just in coaching and accountability of that? Some of the players have talked about that. Some of the leaders on the team saying we need to be more accountable.
Yeah. I think that's been a big emphasis for this offseason. Accountability. and guys being accountable to doing their job on every single play and doing it the way that it's supposed to be done. And so all the details matter. You don't get to pick which details matter. They all matter.
Coach Voluntary, back out here today.
He's got a little deal with his oblique. It's nothing serious. I don't think he'll be out here tomorrow, but it's nothing that will affect him for training camp.
Dennis, with Nick Saldivaris being, I guess, right place, right time to step in at left guard during the injuries, what is that really doing for his development and his new scheme?
Yeah, look, I mean, anytime you get a chance to get out here and get some reps, I think that's how you develop. That's how you get better, So, yeah, I think that this work's been good for him, and yet there's going to be a lot of competition for that spot. Oliudo's a guy that hasn't, really taken any reps, this off season that could be potentially, working in that spot too. So there's a lot of variations. Again, like I said the other day, I wouldn't read too much into any sort of depth charts or any sort of evaluations that you're seeing during this time frame.
Dennis, before you know it, training camp is going to be here after tomorrow. How did you all go about picking and choose who you're going to practice against? You're out on the West Coast, Dallas out there, the Chargers, you practice against them, Rams. Is it the 49ers maybe I will look into that being the measuring stick? You kind of see where you're at considering the success they've had lately?
Yeah, that was part of it. I mean, obviously we were going out there to practice, and we're holding training camp out there, and so you're trying to see who you might be able to compete against. And one of the things that I didn't want to do is I didn't want to travel to go to training camp and then have to pick everything up and go travel again somewhere else to have a few practices. I thought that was a lot on the players, and so we reached out to the 49ers and they wanted to come down and work against us. And I think I know from talking with Kyle, one of the things that he expressed was he was looking forward to the opportunity to work against our defense. We're certainly looking forward to the opportunity to work against them really on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. And yeah, you're right. This has been, a measuring stick in our league, and in particular in the NFC. And so yeah, I think it'll be a good opportunity for us. All right, thanks, guys.
No, it's all good.
I want to ask you about the offense you're going against now that you all have a few. I mean, what makes that offense so difficult maybe to defend? What's the challenges?
Yeah, I think it's the run and the play action, and then the misdirection off of it, the bootlegs. And for me, fortunately, I've been, I was with Clint twice, in Minnesota, in Denver. I worked for his dad when his dad was a head coach. Kevin Stefanski, obviously, was in Cleveland. I worked under Kyle Shanahan. So it's all parts of the same system. So when you get the run game going, you get the play action, it's hard to deal with.
Joe, can you kind of explain the benefit of Voluntary Taylor having that year playing the slot now, and how much that helps him going into the second year playing that?
It helps him a lot. We came back after they were going to the offseason, sat down, looked at some of his tape from the season, and it was hard for him. It's up and down. I feel like personally I could have coached him better, but making that transition from corner to the nickel, now you're playing in space. When you play corner, you have that sideline as extra defender, but now when you're in the slot, you got to defend the inside, the outside, you got to defend deep. So it's just making that transition and also being part of the run game. So I definitely know that he understands it better. Just from some of the plays throughout OTAs, he's definitely further along. So I think he'll definitely make strides this season and play more consistent.
Is that both a mental and physical thing, like adjusting to that spot?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's different. You know, you're down there, you got linemen pulling at you. You know, you're hitting gaps downhill, running back. So there's a physical aspect in terms of the tackling where you have to play like a linebacker, but you still have to be able to cover slot receivers.
You mentioned yesterday that him and Kool-Aid, the idea is for them to kind of compete for that inside job. Do either one of those guys have like safety flex if they don't? Like the one that doesn't end up being the slot corner, is there another way to get him on the field?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. There's multiple ways we can get him on the field. I'm sure he didn't go into that, but I don't see him making that transition to a safety position. But we can put, you know, 2 DBs in terms of 2 nickels out there instead of a dime if we wanted to. So there's different packages we can use.
What was the deal you also said yesterday about Voluntary's ceiling last year is his floor this year? How much of an accuracy is that when it comes to his development?
I definitely believe that because it was a learning experience for him. Like I said, he never played in there. Like I said, it's a whole different world when you go inside because of, again, the coverage aspect and playing the run game. So I think he's learned a lot just from sitting down and watching tape and just from the strides that he's made and the improvements he's made in OTAs.
And the idea of having him, Kool-Aid, and Marshall on the field at the same time.
I love it. I have no problem with that. Right? Hey, the more the better.
How would you view the Saints ranking against the pass last season in light of the relative down year they had up front getting sacks? I know sometimes the numbers are hard to read, but you ranked 10th against the pass. Do you feel like the coverage is really strong?
I felt like maybe our yards per catch, I feel like our numbers are a little bit higher, but at the end of the day, you can't give up explosive plays. And I feel like that was an area that we fell off a little bit. So we had to play cleaner technique, not let the ball get over our head. But I thought we challenged guys. It made it hard for people to complete throws. But I think we were just a little inconsistent in terms of giving up big plays.
Joe, what are your thoughts on what you've seen from Willie Gay so far? And does his athleticism give you a little more flexibility in terms of some of the packages?
Absolutely. And there's multiple things, but when you get a new player, you don't want to put it all out on them at once. So there's definitely some things we can do as him as a linebacker. We get to our Ruby package where we can play him inside or outside. But the athleticism is definitely there. He's big. You get him, he's a big man. But he's doing a good job, and he's learning.
You've added size and versatility at every level during the offseason. How much are you foaming at the mouth to really get these pieces working in the regular season?
Definitely. That's always part of it. It's an exciting time now because, you know, all your draft picks, the guys you signed in free agency, this is really the first opportunity to get them out on the field, right in a live situation in practice. So when you see the athleticism, you see the cover skill, you see the guys up front rushing, it's really exciting. I feel like, you know, if we can pull it all together and stay healthy, I think we have a chance to play good defense.
How would you describe Marshawn Lattimore's mindset right now?
Really, I'm gonna talk to him a little bit later on today. You know, he came here, you know, for the camp. But I think for him, and I don't want to speak for him, but I think he probably feels like he has something to prove. I think the last 2 years were tough on him, had some freakish injuries, you know, really missed 50% of the season. So I think for him, you know, people may have forgotten about him a little bit in terms of the status he's had in this league. So I feel like he may have a little chip on his shoulder and want to go out and prove himself again.
In your experience, when you got a really talented player like that who's played at the highest levels,
yeah,
who then adds that chip on the shoulder, like what can that do?
Yeah, I just think it's about the mindset. I mean, he's been a really good player in this league for a long time. He knows he can play at a high level. I think for him, it's just getting back to that. For me, coaching him, it's just when you have a talented player, you just want to make sure he understands what we're doing, teach him good technique, and just let him go. You know, he's that talented. Yeah, I definitely think he's looking for something to prove this year.
How much is consistency a battle for him? I mean, it seems like some days, games he's lights out.
Yeah.
And then there's other games. I know that's the nature of the position in the league.
Right.
But it seems like with a talent like him,
yeah,
there's been a little bit of inconsistency.
Yeah. I talked to him and everybody else about the same thing. You want to be consistent week in and week out, right? You don't want to ride up and down the roller coaster because the guys that play the best in this league are guys that are pretty consistent, that have very low lows, and the highs don't, you know, get them out of whack. So I think for him, just whoever he's playing week in and week out, just play the best you can and dominate. And I think sometimes when you play really good players, you rise up, and then maybe you feel like your matchup's not as good, maybe you're not as into that. So consistency is big for him, for sure.
What could Jordan? What are you looking for Jordan Houghton to do year 2 to just kind of be more consistent?
Continue to develop. He battled through some injuries last year, but the one thing, he's smart, he's confident, he can play multiple positions. At times when we lost guys, we just throw him in and say go play nickel. So he has that type of versatility. He'll definitely be more confident this year, and he's getting back to being healthy. But I think it'll be a big year for him.
Do you feel like you guys have everything you need at safety, or are you still kind of figuring that out?
No, I feel like we have the talent, in our room. I feel like we have guys who can play multiple positions. Whether we want to play nickel, we want to play dime, we want to play our Ruby packages. I feel like we can move the pieces around to create favorable matchups for us.
When you say you want to see him develop, does that mean it's just generally just like everything get better with it?
It's just more experience. So, we talked about him last year where I think when he first got here, he was trying to be perfect. When you go out there and you try to be perfect, you make mistakes. You have to go out there, trust in what you're supposed to do within the defense and play good technique. So I think he's kind of made it through that. So now he's not going to be worried about that this year. Just let me go out and play football and execute the defense the way it's supposed to be played.
Like Tyrann Mathieu and Jonathan Abram had pair of really strong games at the end of the season. Have you seen them carry that momentum here into minicamps?
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
And what was it about the two of them that maybe made it so successful so quickly those finals games?
Very confident players, very smart, understand the system. You hear those guys out there communicating all the time, right? And that's when you get them guys that have a little bit more experience. They make everybody in the back end better, and that's what those guys do.
Yeah, you've been around secondaries obviously a lot in your career, and what stands out, or what do you find interesting about the group you have this year?
Just talented. Adding Kool-Aid, now I feel like I have, 4 corners that for sure can start in this league. Very similar when I was in Cleveland, I had, Denzel, Greg Newsome, Greedy Williams, Martin Emerson. When you have 4 guys that you feel like can go out and start for you, and where you can go create matchups from a corner position, man, that's where you feel confident you can do some things. And then with our safeties, again, they have versatility. So I just feel good about the group. I feel like they're talented, and I feel like we'll be able to go out and match up against, a lot of the teams that we play.
Thanks, Joe.
Appreciate it. You guys working the other week. You guys have a good one.